When I was growing up, there was a book on our bookshelf in the lounge room at home, Sir Hubert Wilkins. My mother told me I should read it. She said, "This guy is an amazing man." And she said, "Also, he is my father's first cousin, so you need to know about him." Well, I wasn't remotely interested in knowing about any relative of mine. I thought nobody in my family can be that interesting. So it took me another 20 years for me to find out about this man. He was a farm boy, born in 1888. He grew up about 3 hours away from my hometown. He was in this tiny little place called Mount Bryan. He was curious and adventurous. Early on, he learned to operate movie cameras. He found his way to Sydney, which was the capital of the world for making movies in 1911. He stowed away on a ship and got to the UK, where he learned about aeroplanes and learned to fly aeroplanes. So now that he knew about shooting movies and flying aeroplanes, he could become a war correspondent or a war reporter. He went to the Balkan War in 1912, and later on he became an explorer. He nearly died about a dozen times. He was blown up in the Balkan War. He was arrested by the Turks, who accused him of being a spy. They marched him in front of a firing squad twice, but they didn't shoot him. On the battlefield, he was wounded 11 times. In 1919, he was in the famous England to Australia air race, and his plane crashed on the island of Crete. By about 1920, there were only two places left to explore in the world, and that was the Arctic Circle and Antarctica. So that's where he went exploring. Wilkins was on a ship that was crushed by ice up near the Arctic Circle and survived. Another time he was on a plane that ran out of fuel somewhere near the North Pole, and he walked through snow and blizzards for 13 days until he was eventually rescued. He was the navigator on the first Atlantic crossing by a Zeppelin, and then he was the navigator on the first round-the-world trip by a Zeppelin. There he is over Jerusalem. He was the first man to fly over the North Pole from Alaska to Sweden. He was the first man to attempt to take a submarine under the North Pole, and that is his submarine, the Nautilus. He was the first man to fly across Antarctica, and ultimately, Hubert Wilkins saw more undiscovered land, sea and ice than any person in history. He also married a Hollywood movie star, and he discovered a wallaby. And you say, people erect statues of men like this. Well, they haven't as yet. But if you go into the men's toilets at Adelaide International Airport, you will see this huge portrait of Sir Hubert Wilkins. And this is what Hubert Wilkins teaches me, that if you want to get things done, you have to keep going. He teaches me that a country kid from South Australia can do something special. And if I'm about to give a presentation in front of 10,000 people, I think of Hubert Wilkins walking in front of a firing squad, and I think, this is nothing. Resilience, it's all about attitude and knowing that sometimes life gets worse before it gets better.